Okay, here we go, sep soup. This is my recipe and always has been for the best sep soup there is. The secret ingredient to this, risotto rice. This is going to give you a really nice, silky, velvety, creamy finish. Just pop to the shop to get some risotto rice and they have porcini risotto, £2 cheaper than risotto rice. So we're making porcini soup, sep soup, so I'll grab the packet of that. Next up, keep the mushroom flavour alive. You can make your own mushroom stock, but I've grabbed some mushroom stock cubes just from the supermarket around the corner too. As well as that, of course, our main ingredient is the sep that I foraged from the New Forest. Listen to the density of that. That's going in our soup. Also, last year from foraging, dehydrated some seps, but you can get porcini, dehydrated dry porcinis from the supermarket. So if you want to grab some of them, if you haven't got any in your store cupboard, that's a good option. And what we're going to do with this, we're going to rehydrate it, and that liquid's going to give you a natural mushroom stock as well. So when you rehydrate your dehydrated mushrooms, you're going to create a natural mushroom stock. Add this to your stock cubes and use this liquid, add that to your mushroom stock cube, and you've got a powerful mushroom stock on the go. We're going to finish it with a little bit of cream. I'm going to bulk it out with a few button mushrooms because I didn't find many seps, sadly. We're not going to need many, just a couple of mushrooms in there. But I'm going to get some button mushrooms in there too. And then when we finish the soup, we're going to blend it, make it nice and creamy, and then I'm going to top it with the foraged hedgehog mushrooms that I found yesterday. Delicious. Here we go, the ultimate sep soup. So like we just spoke about, let's get those dried porcini rehydrated with some nice warm water. And most of my soups start this way with a great big knob of salty butter, followed by some caramelized onions and a fresh clove of garlic. Slice the garlic and get that in your butter to flavour the butter. And then I use 10% of onions to the body of the soup, so 10% onions to mushrooms. In most of my soup is 10% of onions. And this gives you a really nice flavour. Now next, the onions are going to go into that butter. And for this, we're going to take one stick or half a stick of celery, take off all that stringy outside, and then dice that up nicely, ready to go in with the onions. In chef language, this is our mirepoix. Now we're going to cook all that down in the butter. Okay, now while that onion and garlic's cooking down, the garlic's obviously flavouring the butter, and then that flavour goes into the onions. The onions obviously lose their acidity and the sweetness comes out in the onion as you cook it. And then next up, we're now going to prep our sep. Just going to clean it, slice it nicely, and we'll get some button mushrooms in there too. Just give it a little bulking out, and that's while our dry porcinis are soaking nicely. Probably a good one to do overnight actually, but I'll put some warm water in there just to speed up the process. And if you've never tasted a fresh sep, especially picked straight from the forest, so good, so good. Now the sep is clean, let's cut off that base to get rid of any more soil, and now we're going to cut it in half to see how dense that stem is. Sounds dense? Yes, look at that. A nice solid stem. Sometimes when you get it from the forest, it's full of like insect hole, maggot holes. I know, sounds disgusting. And it can be hollow sometimes, but this has got a really nice dense stem, which is great for the soup. Now we're going to slice that thinly. It's such a nice sep, it's almost a shame to turn it into soup, but it's going to give me a great flavour. Okay, now we're going to slice the other half up, and then that's going to go into the pan with the softened onions and the garlic and the celery and the butter. I'm going to keep 2 pieces of sep behind just for a bit of garnish at the end. Now adding the sliced button mushrooms, let's lift it all up and pop it into the pan. Now a lot of my soup recipes, this is the time where you cook the vegetable right down to get all its natural liquid out and concentrate the flavour of the actual main ingredient, in this case the mushroom. Removing the water this way from the ingredient helps concentrate the flavour, and then by adding the mushroom stock cube and the porcini water, we're giving 2 layers of extra mushroom flavour, making it super tasty. So next in is the risotto rice. So I've just opened up this, never used it before, but obviously if I was going to buy risotto rice and I have porcini rice cheaper, I'd grab that. So I've just opened it up, it looks nice. Obviously got some porcini powder and stock around it. Got a little bit of dried porcini mushrooms in there as well. So this is going to go in next, now that the mushrooms and the onions and the butter have all cooked down. Smells incredible already. Smells like autumn, looks like autumn as you stir it. So I'm excited for this one. It smells so good. Will my wife trust my foraging techniques? This is the question. She loves mushroom soup, but does she trust me enough to eat mushrooms that I forage from the New Forest? And if you want to find out if she trusted my foraging skills, then you have to ask me in the comments. It's pretty amusing. Now I'm going to add half a bag of this risotto rice because it's going to fluff up pretty much, and you know how much rice you get when you start cooking rice, so you have to be careful on this one. And now we're going to stir all that flavour into the rice. It's always a good thing to taste as you're going along when you're cooking. Helps you adjust the seasoning as you go through each stage, give you a better outcome at the end. Okay, now all that rice is nicely toasted off. Now we're going to add those dry porcinis and the liquid, and the rice is going to cook in that porcini liquid. Just porcinis everywhere. And like I said, I should have probably given these a good 24-hour soak or a 12-hour soak and got that water really concentrated with mushroom flavour. But after a couple of hours, it looks pretty good and it smells amazing. So it's not just the water going in, we're going to add all those rehydrated steps in there, and that's going to help add flavour and body to the soup. Now I'm going to season it a little bit with some salt, some freshly ground pepper, white pepper preferably. And now we're going to take that jam jar, still with the essence of porcini in it, and add the mushroom stock cube. Now I'm adding really hot water to this to help dissolve the stock cube. And once the water's in, I'm going to take my favourite chopstick and give it a nice stir to help dissolve the cube. A fully dissolved cube is not essential, obviously. It's going to go in the soup, it's going to boil up, and then we're going to liquidize the soup. And in it goes. We're going to add the whole jam jar here of water because the rice is really going to fluff up and make that soup mega thick. So plenty of liquid and plenty of flavour. And remembering, stock cubes can be a little bit salty sometimes. Okay, so now the soup is cooking. For me, I don't like to cook soups longer than 10-20 minutes max. I think it changes the flavour from a fresh vegetable to a kind of stewed casserole-y flavour. If that makes sense. You know when you make a casserole of carrots and the onions and braising away for like 2 hours, you get a kind of like rich caramelly, sounds nice, flavour, but it does change the flavour of the vegetable. So for me, when I'm making a soup, I want it to like taste fresh and taste of what it is. So for me, I cook soups like in a 10-20 minute process. In this situation, I'm literally just want that rice to cook out. As soon as the rice is cooked and it's soft, then we're going to blend it. You can't blend hard rice. I've been there. And while the soup is cooking, it's a perfect time to prep the hedgehog mushrooms that I found yesterday in the forest. And this will be the garnish to the top of the soup to give it that extra autumnal flavour, mushroom on mushroom. It smells so good. And here they are, a great beginner foraging mushroom, as you'll see in my other video. First, we're going to take the mushroom and we're going to turn it upside down. And underneath a hedgehog mushroom is tiny little spines that we're going to remove with the back of a knife. Here's a bigger mushroom, just to give you a closer example. Gently scrape the mushroom so those spines come off. Washing a mushroom can make it really soggy, so I just use a damp cloth and just wipe off any elements of soil on the mushroom. Look at that, beautiful. Okay, before we liquidize it, just gonna have one more final taste. It smells divine. So good already. Might need a pinch more salt. Actually, instead of salt, I'm going to use some more of the mushroom stock cube, which is quite salty. So rather than adding just plain salt, why not add a bit more mushroom flavour to give that little boost of mushroom in there again. So far it's had 1 stock cube in there, so I'm going to add a quarter more stock cube. That salty stock cube should adjust the seasoning as well. Next in, we're going to add the cream and then blend it. A lot of chefs add the cream after. I like to get it in there so it all marries together and emulsifies it as it blends. Another taste. Taste, taste, taste. So next goes in double cream. Now I put double cream in first because I like it to emulsify with the soup. It does shorten the shelf life in the fridge though. And now double dip in the ladle as it goes in, stops it dripping. And we're going to carefully ladle that soup into the blender. Now giving the soup a really good liquidize, I'm checking the consistency. I want the consistency of the soup to be like double cream. It was a little bit thick, so I'm adding a little bit more mushroom stock. And now for the garnish, let's fry off those mushrooms. Gonna get the oil in the pan and get it nice and hot, and now add the mushrooms. It's really important that mushrooms sear in a pan and not boil. You don't want soggy mushrooms. Now to finish the mushrooms, some chopped chives and season with salt and pepper. And a nice touch to finish with a little knob of butter. And after a long day in the New Forest, it's time to ladle up some of that beautiful mushroom soup. Looks delicious, smells delicious, and I can't wait to dive in. And now once that final ladle goes in, it's time to top that soup with some of those sauteed ceps. I've simply fried them and seasoned them to get some really nice colour on them to really enhance that flavour. And now on top of the ceps, we're going to add some of those hedgehog mushrooms, Beautiful, dainty, nutty flavour, and then topped with some more freshly chopped chives and a luxurious finish of truffle scented olive oil. And at last, it's time to dive into the soup. And here we go, exactly what you need on a cold autumn's day after walking around the New Forest. A taste of the forest. The best mushroom soup there is, for sure. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you give it a try. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, which if you love soup, because it's autumn, you gotta try this one. Pumpkin soup, give it a click. See you next time. And a salty cock's cube.